Today on the Winning with Shopify podcast.
Oh man, so many challenges. Some of the early t-shirts, stickers, designs, that's kind of what I started with, and a couple hats were really not great. I don't know who bought them. Shout out to mom. Thanks mom for buying them all.
I put a really ranty tweet out moaning about the UK government.
Because it basically got to the point where I dreaded going in and shipping orders.
Tech's great if it speeds up something you're already good at.
To pull back the curtain a little bit, some of the questions that you emailed over, I answered them with ChatGPT to prepare myself.
Do you ever find that in your warehouse you have dead stock? You can't sell it, no one wants to buy it, and you can't get a refund on it. Or alternatively, you're missing inventory in your warehouse that you need. You've got sales coming in and you're low on stock and you haven't ordered more stock in time. All these things hit profit, and I've been there. I've run my own Shopify store and had exactly that problem. But we've partnered it up with Inventory Planner, who have the most incredible app to help you manage that and forecast exactly what products, what SKUs, even down to what color of product you need to order in advance to make sure stock levels remain consistent throughout. They're also running a 7-day boot camp. And if you want to go and sign up to that, it's 7 emails over 7 days. And it takes the same amount of time as your morning coffee. And in 7 days, like me, you can become an inventory management pro. Both links are in the description. Enjoy.
So David, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks. Happy to be here. It's a new year, so a new pod, and I'm excited to be here. I'm doing pretty well. Maybe a little tired, maybe a little jazzed. Yeah. Who knows?
Well, it has been Christmas. Everyone's supposed to live relaxed over Christmas, but we know what it's like. People like you and I who run businesses, brain never switches off. It just goes, oh, some capacity. Let's think, where are the clouds right now and how do I reach them? But for anyone that's not tuned in before, David, tell us a bit about your business, your background, what you guys sell, and then we'll dive into some of the more deeper marketing and kind of businessy questions after that. But give us a bit of an overview. How did you get into this?
Yeah, totally. I kind of just stumbled into it. Basically, I run a little mountain-inspired apparel brand based in the Pacific Northwest of the USA. And there's a local landmark that's the coolest thing ever. It's called Mount Rainier, Mount Tahoma. And there's times when it's out, quote unquote, invisible on the horizon. And that just image of that and how amazing it is kind of sparked this interest of mine. And I started basically tweeting when the mountain was out, quote unquote, which is kind of this local catchphrase, and then started designing and selling products and merchandise inspired by the mountain. And it's all just been a roller coaster since then.
Okay, so I don't read too much into guests, as I said to you earlier, and my listeners will know, like, I don't read too much into guests when they come on because I like to ask questions if I know nothing. One thing I did glance at was, and I didn't look at the About Us page itself or the story page, but I saw you just had that thing, like, it all started with one fateful tweet. Was that the tweet, you going like, the mountain's there, the mountain's not there, and just telling people what was going on?
That was it. That was the start of the whole thing.
Amazing. And how long ago was that? Like, how many years have you been going for?
Yeah, the tweet itself was 2013, so 10 plus years. And it's kind of been, the shop didn't start till many years later, the apparel side of things. And so it's been off and on throughout the years, something that I was tweeting on my way into work and taking time off and then getting back into it. And then the last couple of years, it's really just snowballed and grown like crazy.
Wow. And it's so cool, I think, seeing the way people use technology to connect people that aren't in a place to a place. I absolutely love the railways here. Like, I'm really into trains, which sounds like a little 5-year-old talking. But I love actually tuning into, like, there's loads of cameras around the UK railway network. And you could just tune into a camera and go, that's my favourite beach, the railway line's going by, and every now and then a train goes past. And my team are like, this is the most boring thing I've ever seen. When a train goes by, it's all the nostalgia of, like, I used to go there as a kid. And so I really connected actually when I saw just even the homepage of your brand and saw how that was. But there must have been like a real challenge when you go from, like, you say a tweet, it's not even called that anymore. Obviously, Elon's renamed it X. You know, he's gone for a full letter rather than a word. And there must have been a challenge to actually go from, like, okay, I've got an audience of people that just like hearing if the mountain's there or not and kind of what's going on, to suddenly like, hey, come buy this product. Like, what were the early days like? How did you get out of kind of that early mentality into we're now a business that's trading?
Oh man, so many challenges. It was definitely been a learning process. I don't really have a background in e-commerce or graphic design or apparel or like any of these things, basically. My career was actually in a different place when I started that tweeting 10 years ago. I was in financial services. Now I'm a web developer. I've been coding websites for 7+ years. And so just learned everything along the way. But there's definitely many challenges. Some of the early t-shirts, stickers, designs, that's kind of what I started with, and a couple hats were really not great. I don't know who bought them. Shout out to mom. Thanks, mom, for buying them all. But they were pretty terrible looking back. And now it's been pretty cool to see that path and that like just journey from day zero to day now. Like I started in our spare bedroom when we were in an apartment with my family, and then we moved to a house. I ran it still out of a spare bedroom, built a backyard office shed, which is where I'm in now. Outgrew that. Like the boxes were spilling onto the grass outside, and then ended up in a warehouse like a year or two ago, a local warehouse that I ship orders out of now.
Wow, and it's such a cool journey, and I think certainly with the product quality, we've had a lot of guests on that have said like, yeah, we wanted to start this product, so we did like a Kickstarter, and there's like 10,000 people who've ordered the product, and then the first run of products arrived, and they were all like terrible, and it
Yeah.
was like, right, we don't know what we thought we knew about products; these are bad.
Yeah.
Like, and like you say, who's going to buy them?
Hmm.
I guess if the business grows enough, they almost become the retro range, like an original Harry Potter book or something, which is quite cool. But obviously, I mean, what a journey from, I mean, literally from flat to house to warehouse. Like, that's quite a cool kind of evolution. And I mean, do you have many staff now? Like, has it become quite a big operation, or have you kept it really lean and sort of outsourced? Like, these guys do the warehouse, these guys do this bit.
Yeah, it's super lean. It's basically just me doing most of the things. I started about a year and a half ago with a shipping person to ship the orders for me because it basically got to the point where I dreaded going in and shipping orders. And I've heard that's kind of like the point where you want to flip the switch and hire someone else to do it. And that I saw instantly that change where I was really motivated to get more orders in versus the polar opposite before that person started doing it for me, where I was dreading, even though it was great to see the revenue come in the sales, I was dreading that act of it. Even though I enjoyed shipping out orders, it was really fun, but it's just kind of like hanging in the back of my head. Oh, I got to go ship out another couple dozen orders. But it's basically me, the shipping person that handles a lot of things. I've got a VA that I've been working with over the last couple months, and that's been really useful to do a lot of there's so many like little menial tasks or little repeatable things. And there's just so much, especially, I mean, I run an eco-friendly apparel brand. So it's kind of like uphill battle, niche, geo-specific, like let's just make it
Yeah.
as hard as possible. And so I have too many SKUs. That's a work in progress, but like managing all of that, doing inventory, all the things is really difficult. I've also started using my friend ChatGPT over the last like month or two. I know it's kind of the hot topic on the street, or at least has been the last year or two, but I found that to be really useful and to kind of have a co-founder type person almost to bounce ideas off of, thoughts off of. And it's so hard when you're a solopreneur because I'm a perfectionist, and that is good and bad, but wanting things to be absolutely perfect before they go to market is not the best, and wanting everything absolutely perfect. So I kind of have to focus on getting things done rather than perfect. And that's kind of been my motto over the last year or two, actually. It's been focus on the essentials, cut out the fluff. Still working on that, but that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was reminiscing. I don't know how many of you guys listening follow me on LinkedIn. I put a really ranty tweet out on, it'd be Monday the 6th of Jan, moaning about the UK government mostly. The first one was about like tax increases they've done, which have just screwed over the retail industry. Spoke a bit about ChatGPT and other stuff. And I think I made a parallel in there, which you just reminded me of exactly with that kind of that lean operation you're running now. When the internet first came out, was the parallel of actually what AI I think is doing now is that second wave of we don't need as many people, we don't need as many people, we can do more without people. And there's always this nervousness, isn't there, right? There's always the socialist in the room who's like, but what jobs are we all going to do? And the capitalist goes, if there were loads of money and none of us work, that's a good thing. And it's like, but we need to be fulfilled. And it's a balance, right? We need a bit of both. But I think it's really interesting, as you say, like having a co-founder called ChatGPT. I've never heard anyone call it a co-founder. But I do think there is a really good room for that, and especially if you're using the like the paid version that's got internet access. We use it all the time. Like I literally, before recording this episode we're on right now, before this goes live, we will go on ChatGPT and go, right, these 3 or 4 topics. What is the most watched podcast, YouTube video, Spotify episode? Therefore, what should we call it? And all we're doing is we're using a bit of AI to just do a ton of research in seconds. And I'm sure you use it for very similar tasks.
So it's funny is to pull back the curtain a little bit. Some of the questions that you emailed over, I answered them with ChatGPT to prepare myself, and then also asked
Nice.
my co-founder what questions you should ask me that would be interesting. And it was able to basically, because I've trained it on just thousands of documents and content and my voice and brand, and it's just questions every single day. So it's like more knowledgeable and has a better memory than I do at this point. So super useful as a sort of a force multiplier, I see it as.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I just couldn't believe, like, when you ask it even some of the questions that we're talking about today, asking it like what is the most popular or the most viewed or something, it can go on YouTube and like do some searches and find and filter it, or look in its own database and go, I know this, this, and this, so I'm going to share that information. It is so powerful. And I think I've always lived by the motto that like tech's great if it speeds up something you're already good at. I think the challenge for me always is if you said to ChatGPT, like you're a web developer, you know nothing about web development, and you ask ChatGPT, how do I edit this piece of code? It's only going to answer you that question. This is how you edit or change that piece of code to do what you want. What it won't tell you is that's about to interfere with a JavaScript file, stop the whole thing from working and crash the server. And now you're in a bit of a pickle. So I think that certainly training it, we do that a lot with ChatGPT when we're doing any content stuff. Like we have a tone of voice for each client where we give it the tone of voice document, like, please read this and take this into account whenever answering any future questions. And then you say, like, right, we've got 5 furniture trends. What title should we put on this using our tone of voice document? It knows. And I'm sure you use it for similar things, but it's really smart. But the tool's only as good as the person using it. If I just log in fresh to ChatGPT and start a new chat every day and go like, what title shall I put on this? It will just go, I don't know. Here's some random titles that look kind of cool, but it's got no context that you're trying to optimize for SEO, for your audience, tone of voice. If you specifically are, as you are geolocated, it'll know to go, well, we need to talk about the mountain, don't we? We can't not talk about
Hmm.
the mountain. It's so core to the
Hmm.
brand. So I'm
Hmm.
going to mention that without you even asking me to. And as you said, it's got an
Hmm.
infinite memory, which is
Yep.
quite convenient.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's definitely like only as good as the training that you provide it. And I will say that it's very overconfident in a lot of the answers, so
Mm.
you definitely have to be careful, especially as a web developer like that. I've seen
Yeah.
a lot of things where I'm like, that's not really, yeah. But anyways, we don't have to get down the AI rabbit hole. We're not here to talk about that.
Yeah. I'm waiting for Apple to put one on a Mac so I can just click like do my job for the day and see what happens. I mean, it'll be carnage. Anyway, I mean, going into this year, we're talking about some pretty good like current and kind of also like near future stuff. What are some big focuses for you guys in 2025? Like you mentioned straight away, like New Year, and it is. What got you out of bed at the 1st of January or 2nd of January once the New Year's hangover had finished? If you're anything like me, you know, when you got out of bed in the morning, what's the thing that's got you up this year? What are you focusing on? What do you think's coming? Where do you think some of the wins are gonna be?
Yeah, this year my biggest focus is profit. So the last couple of years I've made a lot of mistakes and I have like basically it's hard because apparel is tricky. You're not sure what's going to stick until you kind of do it. And so I've kind of thrown stuff at the wall to see what sticks, more so than I should have for sure. But that has given me a good sort of baseline because that's also been the challenge the last 2 years is not having a baseline. Like I have no idea what Black Friday should look like for the brand because a couple of years ago the brand was making like 45K a year, which is, good for a side hustle, but not like an actual brand. And then having that go up like a couple 100% over the last 2 years has been phenomenal. But now I kind of have a little bit more of a baseline, and so I'm focused a lot on curating my catalog to really focus on the winners and focus on profitability because that's been a struggle for myself for the brand. Just not knowing the numbers as well as I should, not being involved in the financial numbers and like that sort of nitty gritty stuff as much as I should. I've found that I'm very much like a product person. I love designing and making new products. And so like if it was my choice, that's what I would do all the time. But I'm having to be very careful to curate my time because because everything comes through me and is uh kind of run by me. And so I have to be very careful and not and order like so like a tangible takeaway from that is order MOQs. Unless I know that something's super gonna do super well, order the MOQ because things are very seasonal. Things can change. It's fashion, like fashion trends kind of change. And so I have to be very careful because in the past I've gotten trigger happy, let's say, and like overloaded on certain product categories and then paid for that for months and months on end. And so yeah, like curating the catalog's a big focus. Focus is a big focus, removing fluff, focusing on winners, profitability, margins. I've made a lot of improvements on those over the last year or two, but I still want to focus on that into this year and going forward. And we'll see. Like I feel like the trajectory of the brand is kind of crazy. Like it's a rocket ship at this point, in some ways. But I want to be careful and um, do good by the brand and not like get too crazy with things, basically, and get in trouble, which I've gotten in trouble in the past.
Yeah, and I can, I can relate. I started a sunglasses. Everyone who listens regularly knows this. I started a bamboo sunglasses brand years ago, and I just spent $5,000 on Alibaba one night after a few beers at a Shopify meetup, and that was the first time I'd ever heard about Shopify, and that would have been over a decade ago now, I think. So yeah, probably similar time to when you started tweeting.
Classic.
But yeah, we did that, and then I was like, wow, these are more premiums. Like, let's get $10,000 worth of these, and like loads of SKUs, and one worked. So
Jeez.
initially, I only ordered 2 SKUs, and when they arrived, I was like, "Am I going to need a bigger range than 2? Maybe, but I haven't got any money left, so I'm going to have to just sell those." I was running the agency on the side, so like I bankrolled it with the agency. But yeah, and then eventually, you talk about financials. I did the sums one day and went, right, I need to sell like 800 units a day and have an entire warehouse and 3 staff to earn £25,000 a year. And I was like, this is a non-starter. I can make that in a year if I signed like a quarter of one decent client. That was the like, and that was like 10 years ago. Bearing in mind how much the agency's grown, fees have gone up. Like, so it was that kind of model of me going, and she wasn't my wife at the time, it's my girlfriend, my now wife. She was like, "Does this add up?" I'm like, "No." She goes, "So what are you going to do?" I was like, "It's going to be on eBay by 5 p.m." And I just sold the stock, the website, all gone. And I made my money back, but how much
Oh, that's
time had
good.
I lost?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think, I think you're focusing on exactly the right things. But at the same time, like there's a really, I can't remember the author. Apologies, but there's a book called Fail Fast that I absolutely love, and I constantly reference bits in that of like, you just need to make mistakes. Like in your business, it's product. In my business, it's people. And I would say, like, I've had some lovely people that have worked for us. I've had some lovely people that weren't right that have worked for us, and it's just not worked out. And I think you've been good in the sense of kind of going slowly with that, but it is exciting, isn't it, when you're like, oh my gosh, shiny object, let's buy 1,000 of those and chuck them on the shelf, and then
Oh,
no one buys them, and you're like, I should have seen this coming, really.
yeah. I'm trying to end the squirrel shiny object syndrome. That's my goal. One of my goals for this year, 2025. No more squirrel. No more rabbit hole. Like, oh, that looks really fun and sexy. Like, that is for a 9-figure business. Stop, David. Bad, David.
Yeah. Or a CEO who's got $1 billion to spare. Like,
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
kind of like, I'm going to buy a beach. Like, that's how I'm going to sell more hats. I'm going to buy a beach, and then it doesn't work. I think there's a really good rule I heard on a podcast a couple of years ago, and I do this a lot. If I'm doing something that's completely new that we've never done before and it's a test, I literally on my iPhone, I just set a timer for 30 minutes. At 30 minutes, I close. Whatever it is, I close. And then if a week later I'm still thinking about it, another 30 minutes. If not, in 30 minutes I've killed a sidetrack that would have distracted me for months. And that's been a really good kind of discipline for me. The other rule I've got now as well, which I'm sure you can relate to this, is I try to only do things that link into my main agency. So this podcast links into, it's powered by, and it's all marketing. It links in really nicely to the main agency. We're launching a couple of new things this year in the agency, one new service, and this is the first time I'm ever mentioning this. We're going to run our own e-commerce store, and we're working out what at the
Ooh.
moment. And we're going to make loads of case studies. It's going to be super public. We're going to do YouTube videos about how we've set it up, theme updates. We're going to test apps. That's the plan, but it might not work. We're still in the testing phase. But I think it's like, for me, everything's got to tie into that middle part of the agency. If I feel like I'm pivoting too much, or going like, oh, I run an agency, and genuine idea last Christmas, why don't I start a centre you can go to that's really warm and full of massage chairs? £10 for half an hour in a massage chair. Genuine business idea, terrible idea. Again, the financials didn't add up, but
Yeah,
that distracted me for about 3 days.
yeah.
But yeah, you've got to be disciplined. Okay, so going into this year then, you're looking at a number of different things. I guess a massive thing for e-commerce brands, if we switch into talking about this for a sec, and I think a lot of our clients get this wrong. Talk to me about how you guys work with customer feedback. How do you speak to customers? How do you get feedback from them? What do you ask? How does it work for you? Where have you been successful? Where have you not been successful with it?
Yeah, customer feedback's so important, especially for a brand like mine. Being able to connect with the customers directly, just kind of the brand is very community focused, community driven, obviously geo specific, very like location based. And so over the years, I've done dozens and dozens of pop-ups at local farmers markets and other sort of market venue type situations. And that's been super useful for customer feedback because then I get to talk to people, I get to see what they want to gravitate towards, what they want to touch, what they want to pick up and ultimately walk away with. That's been really useful. I also try and do a yearly survey, which good reminder, I should send that out and get a lot of the feedback from folks. But I try and just be in touch with them as much as possible. I've got a private Facebook group with a lot of like the super fans, quote unquote, that have been following the brand for years, and that's been super awesome to talk to people in there. I kind of run the brand as like I'm very transparent. Like it's kind of just me doing this thing. I'm figuring it out as I'm going. So I kind of try to leave it like an open door, so to speak, for folks to kind of share their ideas, their thoughts, their feedback, which is good and bad. You have to be very careful with that and curate it and know that like ultimately I'm in charge. Like the customer is always right, quote unquote, but also the customer can be wrong. And another thing I do is I read through all of the reviews that people leave. And at this point, the brand has, I think, over 600 5-star reviews, which is pretty awesome. And the review rate's pretty high, 6 to 8% that people leave reviews. And so people are like really into the brand, which is awesome to see. And so kind of being as close to that as possible helps give me that close feedback loop into what to do going forward with everything.
Yeah. And I think you're in a good phase at the moment where you're small enough that you can read every review. I think if I asked some of my clients to do that, I'd give them an actual heart attack. And some of my other clients, I should be asking them to do that, and we should do it for them and say, you do realize everybody's moaning about your delivery, but still giving you 5 stars. You should fix that. That's probably a barrier to second order lifetime value.
Does your email marketing suck? Do you wish it converted better and integrated better with your store? Well, there is a solution. We've partnered with Seguno, who are an email platform that is built into Shopify, which means you don't have to leave Shopify to go and manage your email campaigns. So you can run your marketing at the same place you run your shop. To learn more, you can claim your free customer analysis and strategy session and visit seguno.com/winning with Shopify. That's seguno.com/winning with Shopify. Seguno is made for merchants, not marketers.
But that private group, do you say it's private Facebook group you set up?
Yep.
That sounds like the most powerful thing, and it still surprises me how many brands. I kind of feel like I'm surprised how many brands do have it and how many brands don't have it. How did you set it up initially? Like, did you just message some random customers, or was it the ones you find yourself talking to a lot anyway?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think trying to harken back, it might have been set up this year by me. I remember definitely at one point I set up a Discord and set up all these different channels for different things like hiking and outdoors and everything that like the different subject areas that the customer base is interested in, and then scrapped that because basically my target audience is like, what is Discord? And no one's gonna actually use it.
Yeah.
I have a personal beef with Facebook Meta, that sort of thing, but
I think we all do, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I let that get in the way a little bit of my decision making when it came to setting up a private group, and then eventually caved and set it up on Facebook. That's what people are on. That's what they're using. That's where they are, at least my customer base, and that's the most important part, is being there for them. I don't remember the actual genesis of it, but it started small. I think it's still pretty small. It's only got 400 to 500 people in it right now. But I try and elevate
if you
it.
imagine them all in a room, that's still a good amount of people to talk to and get
That's
feedback
true.
from. That's really cool.
That's true.
Yeah.
I have imposter syndrome a lot when I like compare myself to the huge brands and that sort of thing. And one of my goals for this year is to be a little bit more low key about that. But I think so. I do elevate it in various ways. Like I think initially when I started it, I promoted it on social media, left links, and then I also have it inputted into a lot of the email flows, post-purchase flows. I think I sometimes include a packing order insert that has it on there as well. And just being that the brand's so community driven, people for the longest time have asked about different community aspects to it. Like, hey, let's go on group hikes or something like that. And I would like to do that. I have 2 kids under 4, so that's kind of not possible right now. But that idea is still there. And that's where I took that idea and wanted to harness it a little bit into this group where it's, hey, we can get together online and talk about our shared love for the mountain.
Yeah. I mean, you could even just get the members themselves to organize stuff. Like I've always sort of thought like we don't always need to. Like, I run a local football team, and I used to have imposter syndrome of like I must be there and be the captain kind of thing. And it's soccer to you guys, British
football. I prefer football.
Oh, I love that. That's great. I mean, it is the biggest sport in the world, unless you're in America.
I call the NFL hand egg, American football hand egg. That's more accurate. Let's be honest. I'm a huge Liverpool fan. So.
Are you? Oh no, so I grew up next to Chelsea training ground, so I met all the Chelsea players as a kid.
Where's the end call button?
Well, I was about to say I call American football fake football, which might get a lot of our Americans going, I'm done with this guy. This guy's finished in my
viewer drop.
But I think I'm an idiot. I don't understand it. Is always my defense. I think with the imposter syndrome, especially, like I actually did a there's a website called Design Rush, and I wrote a big article on it. They posted it Christmas Day. I was like, that's commitment. But I did a big article the other day, and I spoke a little bit in there actually about like small brands versus big brands. And I think the grass always looks greener. And I think big brands, like you look at a big brand and go, well, they must have done something right to get to where they are, and that's correct. But they have all these internal corporate problems. Like they can't do anything quickly. Everyone's got an opinion. You'd be amazed actually, and if any of my bigger corporate clients are listening, like you will relate to this, and please don't hate me for saying this, I'm just being honest. In the more corporate environments, the amount of personal opinions that still drive what happens is both kind of shocking, but I'm used to it now. And then when from the big brands, what they see for someone like you, and I think this is where you're doing really well, and you're doing things actually they can't, and that's a really powerful thing. They couldn't run a 400, 500 person community. They couldn't have that intimacy with customers because your customers see you, whereas a corporate's customers see a name and they want as much money or as much product for as little money as possible from that brand. It's a very different transaction. If you wanted to change your product range, you could probably do that in a month. If they want to change their product range, you're talking like some really big corporates, you're talking about having conversations with governments about importing and exporting a huge, like say they went from using polyester in something to using organic cotton. That might actually involve a conversation with the government about import export. Like that is how big those guys are compared to you. So I always use that as a bit of an example of going like the grass is always greener. But I think your feedback groups sound amazing. Like you must get so much fruit from that. And I guess people must start discussions without you even being involved. There must be stuff that's not even triggered by you.
Sometimes that's actually one of my goals for this year is to make it a little bit less about me and more about them and focus on like they don't have those conversations as much as I'd like them to. Like, hey, you guys can just go for it. Go do it without me. Like it doesn't have to be led trickle down or whatever from me or whatever. Like just do it on your own. Go forward. That's community focus is another thing for this year. We kind of talked about this year a lot, but like that's also something I want to get in a little bit more. And it's hard to try and facilitate something without you being like the focal point of it or whatever kind of thing. Like how do I start a conversation but not start a conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess there must be creative ways of doing it. You could ask customers when they're asking a customer feedback, like type question, or saying like, "Oh, I've got this new hat, but it's not doing this as it's supposed to," whatever. You say like, "Oh, it is supposed to," but actually, if you go and join our Facebook group, I'd love it if you could post that in there because you're probably not the only one with that. And I'd love to see what the conversation is. But yeah, do you mind posting it? I mean, we run, and here comes shameless plug for Winning with Shopify. We run the Growth Hub at Winning with Shopify. I will, if anyone's listening to David and going, I'd love to chat to you, I will send you an invite as well, David, to come join in. It's merchants only, but certainly it took us, probably same as your group, it took us like 3 or 4 months of just grinding away with the same like 20, 30 people to get conversations started. Now, like, I put an announcement out once a week. Apart from that, I don't really, I try and answer everything and chat with people when they're asking questions about marketing, but it's
Hmm.
starting to become organic. But it's like it
That's
literally
awesome.
is a snowball. Like you have to kind of get it going to get it
Hmm.
going, sort of thing.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I want to talk about something a bit different because this was in the notes, and I thought this is quite a good point. And you mentioned some of this earlier about stock. Obviously, with you're a small business. So if you make one, as you say, if you make learn a hard lesson, shall we say, ordering the wrong thing and bringing it in, it's very expensive. How do you guys manage forecasting now when you don't have 50 staff to do it, you can't afford a $20,000 a month system with AI to work it out? How do you manage like your stock management and forecast what you're going to need when you're going to need it?
Oh gosh. Poorly is the one word answer.
Okay.
It's been a learning process for sure.
Yeah.
Learning seasonality. So one thing that's really important to me with the brand is I don't want to be like fast fashion. I don't want to be one of those brands that pump and dumps every season. Like, hey, it's spring, we've got 300 new T-shirts. Oh, hey, it's 2 months later, we're discounting them all 50%. It's really important to me to have quality and keep stuff out of landfills. And there's various ways of doing that. One way is to not make too much, of course, and forecast better. And so I don't. I'm I'm bad. I don't have like a good seasonal schedule yet for launching different things. I'm getting a lot better at it. There's been years in the past where I remember specifically on Thanksgiving designing a ugly Christmas mountain sweater that was supposed to be launching like the next week. So bad. Like literally like Thanksgiving launching a week later. I've heard from REI is one of my big partners and they've told me that their designers are working like 2 years ahead of time, seasonality kind of thing. And I have gotten a lot better at it. I'm starting to work on summer products during winter and winter products during summer, more so lately. But to answer the question, like forecasting is, I'm trying to stick to MOQs and trying to stick lower unless I know something's going to do really well, like I mentioned earlier, and then also try and get things out a little bit ahead of time before the season starts. But it's definitely a not strong strong point for
It's
my
yeah,
portfolio or whatever.
it's got to be a challenge for someone like yourself, especially because it's like you're busy in like today and you've got enough things to fix today. So trying to find room to think about tomorrow is difficult. But at the same time, if you can find that room, then you have less of the today issues tomorrow when you get there. It's January right now. We're doing Black Friday and Christmas wash ups with all of our clients where we're reviewing like what sold, what didn't, what SEO backlinks did we get, what pages were ranking, what news publications spoke about us, and we're already talking to the news publications about what we're going to be doing this coming Christmas. Like, can we book you in now? And they're like, yeah, great. And it's like, because they're booking us in now, it's like, just take the money. Like, there's no negotiation. There's no kind of, oh, that's not enough. You know, you've got to pay us more if you want to be featured. The other thing we've done with a few clients as well is we've actually on Shopify built their like collection structures for Black Friday, Christmas, and I think a couple of that do Thanksgiving sales. We've actually built all the collections now. They're just hidden, and there's just a little map of like on, you know, at 7 a.m. on the day, turn
Hmm.
them all on, and
Hmm.
that's it. And like, and
Hmm.
it's really cool. And we can still tweak them between now and then, but it's another thing where and there are, and if you're listening to this, you know who you are. There were 3 of you clients who messaged us like the morning of Black Friday, like, we're doing a sale. It's like,
Oh,
go
geez.
away. I, I, I don't know if it's selfish, stupid, or genius, but I was on holiday for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And my team, like one of them texted me again, Nick, we just had these 3 emails. And I was like, what time is it? 10 o'clock. Oh, gosh. But I do, yeah, it's hard, isn't it? You've got to balance that planning ahead with also being agile to something's going on today. But I kind of feel like, with certainly from talking to so many people like yourself, with stock, you can't afford to get it too wrong too often,
Yeah.
can you? Like,
Yeah.
you make a little mistake, like you've said you've made previously. You make that when you're bigger, that causes a lot of problems.
Hmm. Yeah. I made a huge mistake ordering a winter product, over ordering. I probably ordered enough for 3 seasons, didn't pay attention to the numbers, just got so trigger happy and was like, oh, yeah, we'll clear these all out. This is an amazing product. And didn't have customer acquisition is one of my weaker points in running the business. And I need to work on that going forward for sure. And that's one of my focuses this year as well. Um, but I didn't have the acquisition channels in place to really clear them all out. And it's taken me like a year and a half to fight through that. And then I funded it with credit card, like a business credit card. So pretty much made every mistake possible. Lots of
I
learning this
think,
year.
yeah,
But
I think having spoken to like, and you've obviously got a bit of a background in finance as well. Like having spoken to a few like successful investors over the years, just through various channels, like, and there's been something unanimous about all of them, and they're all like, if you want a quick win today, like just forget it. If you, so I think always going like, and I think ordering is one of those situations where, and it's so easy for me to say this. It's so much harder if I was sitting in your seat. I probably would have done much worse than you have. But you got to just think like, do you know what? If I order like a quarter of the amount I'm thinking of right now, and they all sell, still a big success, and I can always order more next year. I could even do a pre-order and say, look, I'll have more in 2 months. You can order them now, and I'll just order the amount that I need or I think I need. And it's like, just playing the slower game actually means in 2 years' time you'll be running a lot faster than if you keep making those issues. But yeah, I've certainly racked up the odd credit card debt and gone like, how am I going to pay for this? Like, not in recent years, might have, but certainly earlier on when it was like just me and it was just that agile kind of, I can just do what I want and go with the wind. It's difficult. It's difficult for sure. But talking about acquisition, then, is there any marketing strategy campaign you've run, something you've done that's actually like surprised you, either because it's been so good or so bad? Has there been anything that's really stood out to date?
most of it's been surprising how bad it is. No. So I've been struggling a lot over the last year or two with Facebook ads, and that's kind of been my only focus in terms of acquisition. It makes sense, I think, the most for the business, and I don't want to diversify my brain and splinter out what I'm thinking about when it comes to acquisition. And it's been a struggle. Like I've been running my own, been watching all the YouTubes and that sort of thing, and haven't really had like a really good return on it besides almost like a break even. That's kind of where I've been sitting at. I did have one campaign recently for this. Actually, this is my new custom fleece jacket that I made this year, and that was my first ad that has done like over 3 ROAS consistently over like a couple week span, and I was blown away at the power of having a good ad and being able to really run profitably on an ad, like that was fantastic. And so that's also, it was my focus for this last year. It's my focus going forward. Like I want to try and improve the acquisition from a Facebook ad perspective, and really have better performance than I've had in the past.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I guess with a brand like yours, like we sometimes have brands where I'm literally sitting there scratching my head going, you don't have anything unique. Like there's nothing I can put on the webpage, the advert to say it's better than all the others because like I can't, there's nothing to do with that. With you, it's almost like the opposite. Like there's so much in the story. Do you find one of your challenges is how do I get that across quickly in like 3 seconds on a video on a tight budget? Like how do I do
Yeah,
that?
yeah, definitely. I think that I try and cram too much often into ads. I think that's a mistake I've made in the past. I need to get better at testing and figuring out like, hey, let's test this one thing versus this other thing and see and kind of narrow it down to see like what's resonating the best. Another problem that I have is being an apparel company. I know I've got too many products in general. Like that splinters my attention and also makes it harder for marketing. So like when it comes to ads, which products do I feature? Which ones are converting the best? I had a product over the last year or so that was doing, it was last fall up until the summer, was doing phenomenal for ads. And it was really like going through inventory. I couldn't keep it in stock. I was selling it out every couple of weeks, but then all of a sudden it just kind of hit a wall, which was really odd, and haven't really done much with it for the last couple months. But so it's always feels like a moving target. It's always kind of changing, and I haven't quite solved that sort of puzzle in the company.
Yeah, something you said earlier that's kind of resonating around my head as you were talking about how to approach the ad content, especially like what to actually put in the ad. How do you say enough without saying too much? You mentioned earlier about like customers, the customer never lies, but they do sometimes, and it's not always known. Like, and actually, they don't always tell the truth. I think I was literally having a conversation with one of our clients very, very recently. Like, I think I forget what time it is now, but yeah, either this morning or yesterday. And the conversation was like, what for you is like the most important USP? What do you want to push as a business? Where does the brand sit? And they gave me this beautiful kind of story, and I said, like, look, it sounds amazing. We can get that across in an advert. We can shoot some videos for that. We can run some really good Facebook shopping campaigns. The challenge I said to them is, do customers want that? And they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was like, that's great. Prove it. Prove to me that customers really want that, or that that's the number one reason they buy. And they were like, well, maybe we need to ask them. And I said, yeah, you're probably on something now, but we need to be really clever actually. And I've had this a lot over the years with those surveys, those pop-ups, or like you said earlier, going to meet customers face to face and selling, so powerful. Like we have loads of Christmas markets at all the rage in cities in the UK right now, like loads of little literally sheds with some fake snow on top. But people selling beautiful products, lots of little stores like yours. You meet customers, you see the reaction going, wow, I love that color. Wow, that color's amazing. Wow, I love that color. Right, are we getting the idea? The color, it's about color. So whatever your brand name is, make your tagline like the color that makes you go, wow. Like try that, see if that starts to stick. Put that at the beginning of your video. If someone goes, wow, look at that color. And then of course the next thing you're now looking at the product going, that's a really cool color, a really cool design. Or actually, wow, it's so soft. Oh, it's so soft. And then like it goes around and Nan's got the same scarf on and she's asleep. Like it's that kind of thing. Fine line between making Nan look like she's asleep or being dead. But yeah, there's got to be really careful with some marketing executions. But I think it's with that particular client, I challenged them and said, do you know what? Thinking about the customer for a second, customers are we're inherently selfish beings, humans, and that's really hard. The customer probably just wants something that's not expensive and it's super comfortable. Like if it's just a t-shirt and it's this t-shirt like an underlayer, you designed to put something on top of it, it doesn't really matter how it looks unless you're going to go quirky bright colors like a lot of sports players would wear in the winter. They put on, even they got a blue football or rugby kit or whatever, they put a bright yellow underlayer on just to be like, I'm yellow, like see me coming, make a statement. But that's the brand, and you got to think about like either someone wants to look better, feel better, be more comfortable, feel like, even if they haven't, you want to feel like you've saved some money on something. It's hard though, isn't it? Like talking to
Yeah.
customers and really trying to grasp what that is.
So what's crazy is like I have a story about this exact same
Yeah.
situation. I have one of my biggest product categories is this t-shirt, basically a graphic t-shirt. I've got a couple different designs on it, and I call it the Eco Tee because it is the most eco-friendly t-shirt that I could find. Each t-shirt saves 100 gallons of water. It's made from 6 recycled water bottles, keeping them out of landfills. Organic cotton, like it's made from a sustainable tree that's kind of like bamboo, so it's really easy to grow. Carbon neutral, like 10 different characteristics about how it's eco-friendly. The number one reason people buy it by far is how soft it is.
Yeah,
And
organic
so
cotton straight away.
for months and months and months, I was focusing on like the eco-friendly aspects to it. I was just talking to an employee at REI yesterday, Monday. I don't even know what day it is. I think that was Monday. But she was like, I have 6 of your eco tees. Like they're the softest t-shirts in my drawer. I grabbed them because they're so comfortable. And I'm sitting in my head like running through all the USPs around eco-friendliness and the donating back to the parks and all these things. And it's like, no, that's not what they actually care about. Like they care about it being that soft. So I need to, yeah, you're 100% right. Where it's like, what does the customer actually care about? It's not what's in your head. It's what in their head. And you need to convey that. And I need to get better about that.
Yeah, and something we've been working on, and we haven't perfected this yet. We're not experts at it. Is trying to achieve almost like the kind of I call them like primary and secondary buy reasons. The primary one is the reason that they get out of bed in the morning and look for that product. The reason they come to your site, the thing that attracts them in, the reason they're adding to cart. The secondary option, secondary thing is the reason they buy it from you, and that's what I've been trying to diversify with some of our clients to go like, look, you plant trees with every order. I'm not slapping that as the #1 headline on Google Ads. That's not going to work. Or the first thing we say, like, we've been planting trees for 3 years now. And it's like, that's not a long time. And then it's like, so why don't you buy one of our luxury furniture items? It's like, what? Why would I buy one of your luxury furniture? A good question. I'm not really interested. Skip. So I think it's about leading with like, this item is going to brighten up your home, or as you say, like it's the softest tea. One of our sponsors, Seguno, sent me a few t-shirts, and they're made by American Apparel, but it's not UK American Apparel. It's proper American Apparel from North Carolina, and they're organic cotton, and they are so soft. Nice. I wear it all the time. Nice. And I told them this, and they went, "That's why we chose it. It's soft, so people want to wear it." And then the Seguno name is being plastered around. Someone at my local church ran up to me one night and was like, I like that t-shirt. Like, I could find some random email company. I couldn't find the Seguno brand. I'm like, they're not a clothing brand. They're an email marketing company. And they're like, my wife was like, why are you wearing that at church? She's like, have you felt this thing? She's like, oh, that's nice. And I come home and she's wearing my t-shirt. Like, so I think, I think it's a real challenge. And the problem is whether you go down like all the eco stuff you've listed, or you go down the customer going, it's soft, it looks good, it makes me feel good, it washes easily, it folds really nicely, it never creases, whatever that USP is, there's loads of them in both lists. And it really is a challenge. And I think, like you said earlier about A/B testing those ads to see which one works best. It's got to be high on the agenda for the year, as you said. So but it's not easy. And I think, but you've made strides more than I would say a lot of kind of medium to big companies we work with have done, which is you've got that focus group and you can ask people stuff. And also just say to them, be honest with me. Like, I don't care if you prefer it because it's soft rather than eco. I just better the devil I know than the devil I don't. I'm still going to talk about the eco stuff. I'm still going to donate to the parks, but I'm going to lead with that now. And actually, we're going to make a softer t-shirt. Imagine your focus group going, we want a softer t-shirt. Yeah, do it. And it's like, I'm going to make a softer one, an even softer one than this. It's like, and then you suddenly find like 350 of your 400 users bought it because it was soft. But yeah. Well, look, we'll bring things into land there, but David, look, it's such a cool adventure. And no pun intended about your brand, but yeah, I love hiking myself. But what we'll do is I think we'll try and get you back on in a year. If you guys have enjoyed talking to David as well, I'm going to convince him after we click stop to come join the Growth Hub. So yeah, join the Growth Hub, guys. It's completely free. But David, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your honesty as well. I haven't had someone on here for so long saying like, for quite a while saying, we failed at that, but we learned the lessons. So yeah, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Very welcome. It was so fun. I loved it.
Good. And yeah, we'll try and get you on in about a year. For everyone else listening, thank you so much for tuning in. First episode of the year. I hope we didn't sound too sleepy, but I'll be awake by next episode, a little bit more than today. But yeah, great to have you all tuning in. If you haven't already, check out all of our different channels. And yeah, as a kind of snuck in earlier, we are launching some new things at the moment, and do definitely check out the Growth Hub. There's loads of events going on at the moment. We've got some really cool roundtables, some cool guests. We've also potentially got the CMO of Gymshark coming on to a roundtable, so you can come meet him and ask questions as well. He's a good friend of mine here in London. So yeah, hopefully have Richard on soon. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Back again next Friday. And if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button.
Do you ever find that in your warehouse you have dead stock? You can't sell it, no one wants to buy it, and you can't get a refund on it. Or alternatively, you're missing inventory in your warehouse that you need. You've got sales coming in and you're low on stock and you haven't ordered more stock in time. All these things hit profit, and I've been there. I've run my own Shopify store and had exactly that problem. But we've partnered it up with Inventory Planner, who have the most incredible app to help you manage that and forecast exactly what products, what SKUs, even down to what color of product you need to order in advance to make sure stock levels remain consistent throughout. They're also running a 7-day boot camp. And if you want to go and sign up to that, it's 7 emails over 7 days. and it takes the same amount of time as your morning coffee. And in 7 days, like me, you can become an inventory management pro. Both links are in the description. Enjoy.